All right, here with Boo Corrigan. Boo, you just got out of a whole day full of meetings. What's burning in your mind that you're most passionate about fixing in college athletics and you guys are talking about in these rooms?
I mean, there's so much that's going on right now. It's not new, right? Because it's been going on for a while. But, where are we on eligibility and the 5 for 5, right? Where are we on the transfer portal? And not the ability to transfer, but is going to 3 schools in 4 years or 4 schools in 4 years. Is that the right answer to what we're trying to do if we're trying to provide an education? And if we're going down that way, what role does Congress play in what we're doing in the support there? We also had a great session with 4 student athletes, and they were able to talk about their experience, and it was interesting. I don't think I'm giving anything away, but there were 3 of them were Olympic sports, and they were very concerned about the future of Olympic sports, right, and where we are there. But with the Olympic Committee, with Congress, with everyone wanting to make sure that we're not eliminating sports, it's like, that it's fine. We don't want to eliminate sports, but never relax.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because one thing we know about college sports is that it's going to change.
You talk about Olympic sports. Bubba Cunningham in North Carolina, there was a quote that came out that he saw the future being that, revenue sports you get paid to play, and then maybe some of the other sports you pay to play. Right. What kind of answers do you have about the future, how that works?
Yeah, again, right now we're having a great year, right? You know what I'm saying? A ton of support from our fan base, and our student athletes are doing a great job. You almost feel like if you look too far down the road, right, you're gonna hurt the experience that you're having today. So I think a lot of our approach is making sure that once we start something, we finish it, right? Could it ultimately end up in something like that? Sure. Could it end up in this, the revenue sports and then super clubs? You know what I'm saying? And that type of thing? Sure. Maybe that's a blend of the two. But right now, we got 550 student athletes, probably 400 of which are not in football, basketball, and basketball, that are having a great experience and going to NC State, being in Raleigh, and being part of the Wolf Pack. And we think that's a really positive thing, and we want to make sure they have a good experience.
You look at the revenue side. How much of your day is spent worrying about that revenue side? And when you look at where NC State is in comparison to just the teams in the ACC, sure, you guys obviously have some room to grow there too. It just feels like that is dominating what ADs are dealing with.
It is, right? And we've talked about a number of different things, and people are critical of potentially putting a corporate name on Carter Finley, and we talked to the Finley family and the Carter family. But those are the type of things that you need to look at, right? You need to look at everything else. And again, we're not going to go out to every season ticket holder and charge $500 more for everything that we're doing. That's not fair either. You can still get into Carter Finley for a family. Now the seats are, in the end zone or in the upper deck and those types of things, but you can still get in for a reasonable price, and that's important to us as well. So how much time? There's 100%. Right, I'm not a 120% guy. I'm a 100% guy. There's probably 50% of every day, maybe more, that's spent with regards to revenue.
You've talked about Carter Finley. You're obviously hosting concerts there. We've heard about maybe logos on the jerseys. I saw you guys are selling some trophy cases, some sponsorship to trophy cases at Reynolds. I mean, no idea is a bad idea when it comes to how can we generate more revenue.
No, not right now. And again, you've got to try to be creative in what you do. And it's not a single source. There's no magic pill. There's no, those types of things that are going to fix all your problems. So you better be creative. And as we say, you better keep your knees bent, right? Because it's going to come at you from all kinds of different angles.
And that's why the NCAA wants to expand the tournament to 76, and that's why they're talking about expanding the college football playoff to 24. I mean, they're looking for incremental dollars too.
Everyone understands what the problems are, right? The thing is, how do we find the solutions? And the CFP is greater access, right? In the ability to get in there and be a part of that. And our fan base would love that, right? Could you imagine Carter Finley hosting a CFP game? I mean, that place would be on fire, right? As you go into that. So, there's so many different decisions that are being made right now, or so many discussions that are being had right now. I don't know how many decisions are being made, but there's a lot of discussions around everything.
The word sustainable gets thrown around a lot, and it feels like none of this is sustainable. But it's also inevitable, right? To use another word. I mean, how can this continue at this rate? Like, is there a way to cap it, to stop the change, the growth?
I hope so. Right. I really do. I hope the answer isn't that it all crashes.
Right.
Right. Which is a solution.
Sure.
Right. I don't think it's a solution anyone wants. Right. As you're going into this, but I think the more that we try to be creative, the more that we look for answers, the more that we look for ways to make sure that the focus is on it. You know, at the end of the day, it's still going to say NC State or Wolfpack across the front. People want to be a part of that, and they love the experience that they have supporting our students, supporting the competition, getting together, tailgating, being a part of all that. We just need to make sure that we protect that on some level.
You talk about someone who wants to have the Wolfpack across his chest. Your new men's basketball coach, Justin Gainey, obviously a guy who had that Wolfpack across his chest and now is back. You obviously talked to him last year when you were looking for a head coach. What changed in that year's time that you think better prepares him for this opportunity right now?
I think just the additional growth and another year in what's going on, talking with Coach Barnes about what role Coach Gainey served for him, another year understanding what the portal is, another year understanding the revenue share, understanding everything. And you know what? At some point, everyone needs their first job. Right? You know what I'm saying? And Coach Gainey's done a great job in his preparation for this. We believe now is the right time for Coach Gainey to take over. But, you know, I believe in who he is, and what he means to NC State.
Will Wade was quoted recently on John Rothstein's show, and he's talking about being more resources in the SEC and at LSU, and there being more alignment. And maybe some of that is, you know, the guys that came in from McNeil that he already knew. But when you hear that, what does that make you think and feel?
I think we supported the program very well. I believe in who we are and what we do at NC State. I believe in the culture that we've created. Culture can be overused, right? But I believe in everything that we do and how we do it. And I believe we have everything we need to win and to win championships.
Coach Gainey talked about he won his first recruiting battle. He got Paul McNeil back on the roster. CJ Bailey came back for a third season as the starting quarterback for the football team. You know, in this era of people transferring, that kind of loyalty, I think fans really latch on to players like that.
I think they do too, you know, but I also think that those two latched on to NC State. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a two-way street. And they're proud to be a part of NC State. Who we are, and you know, you're playing the 27 consecutive sellouts for football, right? You know, I think it's a pretty good show. You know, at the end of the day, and certainly always starts with Coach Doran and the talent on the field and them winning games. But you know, overall, I think it's a good experience, and I think basketball we saw this year, right, what the Lenovo Center can be, right, with all the fans there, and I think that's something that we can really build on.
As an AD, do you get involved when it comes to the starting quarterback or when it comes to the starting shooting guard, the key recruit? Do you and I'll have any conversations with them?
You know, I like to think of myself as a good sounding board is what it is more than anything else, and just talking through and making sure we understand what we're doing and how we're doing it. I do not call plays. I don't.
But do you talk to those players as they're making that decision?
No, more with the coaches.
With the coaches. Okay.
You know, I think one of the things that's going on right now, and y'all can relate to this, there's a lot of people in people's ears already. Right. You know, I think the idea of adding another one, you know, they know that we're here. You know, they know that we support the program and we support our coaches. And I think that's, if you lay a good foundation for that, I think that's kind of the most important part.
Year 14 now for Dave Doran, which is hard to do in college sports, pro sports, any level of sports. So as the AD, how do you kind of manage that where like the last few seasons, there's been a segment of the fan base that just wants change, and maybe that's just for the sake of change. And then it's your job to kind of step away from all that emotion. So like, how do you look at that going forward? Like, how good have they been? Is that enough? Does it need to be better for him to get further investment?
I don't think anyone goes into a season thinking, all right, well, if we could just win like 4, 5, 6 games, we're going to be okay. I mean, the goal of every season, every coach, every team is to win the games that you have. We evaluate at the end of every year and make sure that, you know, we have everything that we need to be successful. I love the job that Coach Dorn's done. And you think about the CJ coming back, but you think about all the other players that come back. You think about the building that he's done at the program. And I'm very happy with what Coach Dorn has done and look forward to a great season this year.
Talk about football and revenue. You're going to Brazil. You're being paid $2 million for what would have been a road game at Virginia. Right. What is that experience of going to Brazil, playing on a national stage, an international stage, mean for NC State and for the athletic department and for the university?
Well, I think it's going to be a different cultural experience, right, for everyone involved in this game. It's been interesting to see people want to be a part of what we're doing, whether it's on campus and people that have ties back to Brazil, where there's economic development in the state of North Carolina, the Triangle area, right, to be a part of what's going on there. But first and foremost, we thought it'd be a really cool experience, right? More than anything else, right? Obviously, with the viewership being part of it, the opportunity to be the game on at that point in time and eliminate a lot of the competition.
Sure.
Right. In a normal week 1 game and that type of situation. So feel good about that. But, I think it's going to be a cool experience for those people that can come. I think it'll be a great experience. I think it'll be a great memory for our student athletes to have for the balance of their life, to be a part of something like this and look forward to the opportunity to get in there and win a football game.
When you think about revenue sharing, what that was supposed to be with the cap, and then it just kind of wasn't a cap anymore. And it's just like how does that fit into the puzzle now, where it like what was supposed to create a cap isn't there, and it seems to be infinite at other schools?
Yeah, it's really interesting is this whole thing is starting, right? And it's 20.5, and everyone's like, oh my Lord, what are we going to do? It's 20.5. And then immediately it goes beyond 20.5. And you're like, what are we doing here, right? How is this making any sense? But I think we've got to look at, what that cap number is. And is it the right cap number? Is there an opportunity to put in more of a higher number and a harder cap to what's going on? But, that leads to all kinds of different things, right? Everything that we talk about, you guys are involved in this, has secondary, tertiary effects on what's going on. So if you only worry about what the effects are, you're just going to have a really hard time moving anything forward. Right. So how do we move something forward and then deal with it? How do we get a win? Right. You think about the Nebraska case.
Right.
Yesterday, was it a win? I don't know, but it wasn't a loss. Right. But that's the way you look at it, from that standpoint. So, it just continues to change and shift. And, we're committed to being competitive. Right. And we want to be good, and we want to be good in all our sports, but in particular the football, basketball.
A pretty astounding stat I heard earlier this week down here in Amelia Island. Of the 18 teams in the ACC, 16 of them do not have the same president and AD that they had 2 years ago, or they're in the process of changing. You obviously have a new chancellor in Kevin Howell. He's a former student athlete. I know Randy Woodson was a very big supporter of NC State athletics. What has Chancellor Howell done for NC State athletics, and how do you see him as a partner moving forward?
He's been great, right? First of all, perfect person to be the leader of NC State, followed a rock star, right, in Chancellor Woodson, but the perfect person who's very supportive of athletics, understands the front porch analogy of athletics, has been very supportive of us, both in conversations and in deeds, right, as we go through this. But, excited about his leadership, where we are. I am now, our 8th football season. I'm the second longest tenured AD in the ACC. Wow. After a little bit over 7 years. It's crazy.
Yeah, I guess as we go, all of a sudden, next thing I'm one of the most tenured reporters at this town. The turnover is crazy, man, all around. Brian we always look forward to speaking with you. Brian, you got any last questions for him while we got him?
Well, I know Chancellor Howell really wants to beat Carolina and Duke. I had a conversation with him, and he doesn't just want to be competing with them. He wants to be beating them. Obviously a tough neighborhood in many ways, but that's sort of what the Wolfpack kind of thrive on.
I think it is. In when we got here 7 years ago, there was a lot of comparison, right? Well, they have this and they have that, and very intentionally we've said that's fine, but what if we become the best NC State that we can be? What if we look at who we are, what we are, and let them deal with us? And that's what it's about, right? It's not about being jealous. And you've heard me say comparison is a thief of joy, right? I mean, we've got so many great things going on. It starts with the university, but also our fan base and who they are and their connection to our students. So I think the sky's the limit on who we are, what we are, and where we go.
There you go. You heard it from the man himself, Boo Corrigan. Thanks for taking some time, man.
Thanks, I appreciate it.